Hi guys, so today I want to talk about inverts and specifically the top of the invert, so the final position that we're hitting once we are inverted. My name is Verity, I am an online aerial strength and conditioning coach and I help aerialists to get really strong and acquire the skills that matter to them. And so in this video I'm going to share some exercises that you can work on to help strengthen the top of your invert. So the more stable and the stronger we feel in that position, the easier it is to transition in and out of it and from the top of our invert into other skills. And so there's actually a lot of value in working on movements that challenge the position of your invert, that build more proprioception and body awareness, and that basically just get you stronger and more in control of the position. We're going to look at 3 drills that involve moving around in the top of your invert so that you can start to build a more stable position for your aerial practice. So the first drill that we're going to have a look at is the inverted pike pull. And all of these drills that I'm going to share, they're going to be done in a pike just because that's a slightly easier position to hold for the specific movements that we're working on. I do recommend using equipment that splits in two, so for example straps or silks. If you're working on these with a bar, you might find it a little bit challenging because the bar might get in the way, so that's something to keep in mind. I've obviously got gymnastics rings here, so if you have a set of rings they will also work well on this. So the inverted pike pull is essentially going into the top of our invert with pike legs. We're going to hold that shape. So I'm going to talk through the cues for that particular shape, and then we're going to try and do a pull-up. So we're essentially just bending at the elbows, trying to lift our body. But in order to do this successfully, we need to be able to maintain a really strong, tense position. So I'm going to share what that looks like. So you can invert any way that you would like. And then I'm going to come into this piked position. So I'm making sure that my toes are pointed, my legs are tense, I'm trying to compress at the hips a little bit and I'm pushing my hips away from me, and then I'm squeezing my shoulder blades so my chest is pushed forwards. If you struggle with hamstring flexibility, you can bend your knees and do it like this. Otherwise, try and keep the legs straight. And then from here, I'm going to pull. What a lot of people tend to do with this is they lift their legs as they pull. So you can see I'm opening at the hips. But as soon as I lift my legs, I'm no longer in my inverted pike position. So I want to make sure that I'm active in my hip flexors and I'm tensing my quads and tensing through the leg to try and stay in that piked position. And then the only movement that should be happening is from the elbows. And so when you try this for the first time, the movement might be very small. Because I've trained this drill a lot, I can pull my body weight quite high. So I really recommend starting with small pulls to begin with and then building up from there. I will show you one more time. Coming into my inverted pike position, and then I'm going to pull. So you can start with small pulls, and then eventually the goal is to pull as high as you can. So the next drill that we're going to have a look at is pike to inverted hang. So we're going to start in the same position of our inverted pike, and then we're going to go from pike to straight. So we're going to lift our legs up towards the ceiling. One of the things that I want to think about when I'm doing this exercise is keeping my core engaged and keeping a hollow body. So I basically want to be in a hanging dish position. I don't want to open up and arch my back and push my hips forwards because that's going to make it much harder to balance and potentially throw me out of the rings. So this movement, we can go nice and slowly, and then we're going to come back to our pike. So we're going to be moving in and out of that invert position. And this is just a really nice way of like not only becoming really aware and stable of what's happening in our inverted pike, but understanding how to control moving in and out of the position and into something else. So I'm going to demo this for you. Coming into my invert, So here's my pike position, pointing the toes, making sure the legs are tense, squeezing my shoulder blades, and then I'm going to lift up, and you can see I'm looking to my feet, and that's keeping me in a dish. So I'm keeping my chin tucked and looking towards my feet. It stops me doing anything like this, which we do not want to be doing this right now. And then coming back to the pike. And so I'm controlling both sets of movements. There's a bit of a change in the position of my hips. They lift up and then they come back down. They also move from this side of the rings to more between the rings. But you can see how this really challenges that pike position. Like, if I can't hold that pike position really comfortably, if I'm not stable in that position, as soon as I try moving my legs in that way, I'm going to fall out of the invert, right? So to do this exercise, you've really got to have that control. You've really got to actively be holding the top of your invert. Make sure that your legs are balanced evenly across your arms so that your weight is distributed in a way that allows you to balance, and then you can slowly move the legs up and down. So the third and final drill that we're going to have a look at is pike top position pulses. So top position pulses, and I know that this drill has other names, so you might know it by another name, but I use this for anybody who is working towards straight arm inverts. And in fact, if you're working towards any kind of invert, it can be a useful drill. And it's basically learning how to go from the top of your invert, where your chest is pushed forwards and your shoulder blades are squeezed together, to then doing the opposite of what we want, where you round your upper back, you let your hips sink down and you tuck your pelvis, and then you go back to the top of your invert. So we're moving in and out of this position. It builds tons of strength through your scapula and upper back. And it's the drill that will allow you to finish your invert and pull all the way up to the top. It teaches you that part of the movement. So it's super useful for a number of things. But I also like it because you really have to be stable in the top of the invert to move in this way. So again, with this drill, you can start very small to begin with. You can keep the movement small to control it. And as you get more confident at it, you can make it bigger. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. We're going to come into the pike position again. I'm going to squeeze my shoulder blades together, pushing the chest forwards. And then I'm going to round my back and let my hips sink. You can see my back rounds completely, pelvis is tucked under, and then I'm going to pull back up. And as I pull back up, I'm not lifting the legs. So this is another one where we want to stay active through the hips, and then down, and then squeeze. So that is one that you can do in a straddle as well. You can always try that out in a straddle. But the theme of the exercises today are drills to do in a pike position. So that's why I'm demoing it in a pike. And so this is, again, just another drill that brings so much awareness and control to the top of your invert and really understanding where that position is and what's involved in holding it. So definitely give that one a try. So just to give a little bit of a recap, we've looked at exercises that challenge the position of the top of the invert, and they are designed to make you stronger, more stable, and more in control of the top of your invert. They're also drills where the movement themselves is relatively simple. I'm pretty much moving back and forth between two positions. So a hang to a bend, back to a hang, pike legs to straight legs to pike legs, and then a retracted scapula to a protracted scapula and back again. But they are also movements where if you do not have the right tension through your body, you will really struggle with them and you will likely just fall out of the invert. So I like them because they're simple, but they also have to be done properly, right? Like, you can't really beat these. So yeah, they're really good for conditioning, but as well just bringing more awareness to the top of your invert, which I feel like it's a really vital position. It's a really important position to be strong in, and a lot of times we just neglect training it. So this video is just to give you some like additional ideas on how you can train the top of your invert and hopefully just continue building more strength and control in that position. And again, these are just my ideas and my research with strength and conditioning. I'm just trying to share more of these sorts of videos in the hope that somebody will watch it and be able to take something away from it, even if it's just one helpful cue. So if you did enjoy it, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.